Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited and honored to be here among the speakers of this beautiful and creative exhibition today. And first, I would like to give a special thanks to two ladies that are not here, but Stefania Nobile and Valentina Calonla. So my name is Merav Vanounou. I am the owner of LYP Marketing Agency. I will tell you a little bit about it later. I'm very excited, so please excuse me if my English will be a little bit broken. This is what happened to me sometimes. My agency helps beauty brands, niche brands, to create and implement content-based marketing. And basically, this is what we're going to talk about today, about social media for niche brands, do and don'ts, but also if some of you are maybe bloggers or retailers, what we're going to discuss is going to help you also to create and implement your content. So since we are going to talk about social media, these are the hashtags you might want to use. These are the recommended hashtags. So if you are on Instagram, say hey. You are on Instagram? Yeah. So I would be very happy if you can tag me and do all the hashtags of Esxence. It will help us a lot. This is a part of what we call marketing. So we're about to talk about No. Sorry, excitement. Okay, this is it. So I'm going to tell you the story about my affair, how it began with niche brands, with niche perfumery. I believe it happened 8 years ago, while I was in a business trip in Paris. And I did what I like to do when I'm in business trip. I went to see some shopping, you know, just to find out if there are new interesting brands in the beauty industry, new perfume brands. This is my passion, so this is what I do. And I went into Galeries Lafayette in Paris, you know, the ground floor where all the brands are, all the mainstream brands are. And as I was just, you know, taking a walk between these beautiful brands, these mainstream brands, all of a sudden, I've noticed some new counter just around the corner. And it was from a brand that I couldn't recognize. I didn't know it from before. So I approached, and I've noticed that all the bottles are black, something very unusual, and everything was the same, very mysterious, very sensual atmosphere, and the scent that was in the air, I was fascinated by it. So I approached the girl on the counter, and I asked her, could you please let me know and tell me what is this? What is this amazing brand? And of course, she was more passionate about it even than I was. And she immediately started to explain about this beautiful, beautiful brand with this beautiful extract and ingredients. And she told me all about the history of the brand. It was a new brand, but the history of the owner was, he was from a very important family. You will find out soon. I think you all know him. And she even told me all the stories about each and every fragrances, all the fragrances. And of course, she asked me some questions just to know which one of the fragrance will she can advise for me. And she was right. After asking me all these questions, she gave me, I think it was Back to Black Aphrodisiac by, you know, by Kilian. And I was amazed because this was something new. There was a new story behind the brand. that I couldn't recognize from before, and the scent was amazing. The bottles were very small, the price was very expensive, and it was something different than all the other brands that sit around there. So first thing I did when I got back to Israel, sending my former boss an email saying, come on, this is the next level of perfumes. We need to have it in our company. And I didn't receive a normal answer back then. It was 9 years ago, and it was interesting, everyone. And it took only 5 years later for me to get my dream project and to be able to establish the niche category perfume in Israel, in the Israeli market, and opened the first niche boutique in Tel Aviv called Individual Cabinet de Parfum. So we opened the boutique. It was very challenging, and after that, I was facing a new challenge, because the challenge then was, how the hell am I going to get the audiences to come into the boutique? And even the biggest problem was that the Israeli market, it didn't have niche category back then. I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago. So I also had to come up with the ways to educate the audiences in order to know niche perfumes, in order to love them, in order to ask, what is it? In order to encourage them to check it out. And I've noticed a very simple thing. As time went by, I understood that social media or marketing for your brand doesn't matter if your brand is a niche perfume, is a skincare, niche skincare, or even mainstream, but we are going to talk about today about niche, so I'm going to emphasize all the things that we need to pay attention to. But even for yourself, if you want to promote yourself, if you are a blogger, if you are a retailer, so here is what we should do and do not do. So after the realization that marketing is basically content creation, content that your audiences are consuming in a very broad various of channels. It's what they read online, it's what they hear. Can think about podcasts, for example. It's what they feel. It's what makes them emotion, you know, evokes their emotions, for example. It's what they see each and every time they meet your brand, whether if they see it online or if they see it offline. And we are going to discuss about the streaming of the online to the offline world in a few minutes, because this is happening, guys. And we must pay attention to not only to the online, but also to the offline. It's the same thing. And of course, the most important is what they smell and what they touch, because eventually this is your brand. And this is the hardest challenge when we are talking about social media for perfume brands, okay? How can we make the other side, the customers, smell? If they're just sitting behind the screen, we have to make them feel the scents. How we are going to do that? That is a question and a challenge. So we can see that the variety of channels in which your audience is consuming their knowledge, your content, is very, very wide and broad. And I know that most of the niche brands, they do not have large or extra budgets for advertising, So I'm going to talk about the middle of the diagram. You can see all the channels that you have. We sometimes tend to think about social media. When we're talking about social media for brands, we tend to think about Facebook, Instagram immediately, automatically. It's true, but you have multiple channels that you can use that are not Instagram and not Facebook. And the more consistent you will be in the middle, the more accurate you'll be in picking your channels, your marketing channels, your content channels, the more you will get the money, the sales. This is how you translate, basically, your content to money, to sales. And this is what we all want, you know, whether if we are retailers, whether if we have our own brands that we are selling to other retailers or other distributors. This is the main goal. One more thing just to mention that is very important to say, that the marketing world has undergone revolutionary changes in the past recent years because marketing has gone from outbound marketing. Do you know what outbound marketing is? It's just pushing your brand into your consumers wherever you can do it. But we've gone to inbound marketing that is talking about bring the audiences to you by creating content in all these channels that we talked about. And now we're going to discuss what we should do and shouldn't do while creating content. So, I'm just going to say that I'm going to leave time for Q&A if you'll have at the end. I'm going to drink some water. Sorry. Okay, so first thing, and it's true for everything in life, I guess, is set your goal. You cannot go out, you know, and create content without knowing what your goal is. You need to really understand the purpose of the content creation that you are about to do. Is it a brand awareness? This is your goal. Are you selling online, maybe, and your goal is to attract people and to make them pay for your brand? Maybe it's another goal, but you are the ones to set it. You are the ones who knows better than everyone what is your goal, but you need to set your goal first before you start do anything, both social media, online, offline, whatever. And the more sharpened your goal will be, the clearer the way will be. And just a hint, self-satisfaction is not a goal because many of the brand owners, you know, it's a very, very hard process to launch your own brand. It doesn't matter if it's perfume, if it's skincare, even if you're launching a blog, okay? It's a process. And we tend to be very proud of our work, which is absolutely okay. But at some point, we need to understand that it's not for us. It's for other people to like what we're doing. And we need to make sure that we are aiming the content for our audiences. Do not focus only on one channel, okay? We saw in the diagram before, we have multiple channels to use. Facebook and Instagram are not the only channels that you can use. You can use podcasts, you can use collaborations, we will talk about it also. But you have to really, really think and know where your audiences are. Where are they? Where you can find them? And where are they consuming the content? This will help you, okay, to know which channels you have to use. And I recommend to use more than one channels. I recommend at least 2 and not more than 4 to start with. After, when you are growing, you can use multiple channels and add marketing channels. Tell your story right. Okay, this is, storytelling is, I think, the buzzword, the new buzzword, okay, of the latest couple of years. Wherever you go, you hear storytelling, storytelling. So what is storytelling exactly? It's all about telling your story. Telling your story without words sometimes. Sometimes you have to tell your story only with a visual, okay? But you need to make sure that you and your team, they know what your brand story is. For example, when you are telling the story, and when I'm telling the story, it doesn't have to be that I'm speaking to someone. It's everywhere. My audiences meet the brand, okay? He's recognizing the story I'm telling him. So I really, really need to maintain my brand values while doing it. And you really have to know your story, and you have to know how to tell it correctly to your audiences. Don't create content for yourself. Okay, and this is really, no, wait. Yes, do not create content for yourself. We saw, no. I think I missed something, yeah, got it. Okay, don't act as a mainstream brand. This is the biggest paradox of the niche perfumes or the niche brands, okay? Because most of the niche brands, their wishful thinking is to be bought by an extra large group, to do an exit, we say in Hebrew, or whatever in the high tech. And it's fine, I get it. But it's completely the opposite of niche values. And I always say it's okay and it will happen, but if you think about all the niche brands that have been bought by large groups, you will see something very, very similar that connects them. They all kept their niche values through all the stages of the brand until they've been bought. So don't try to be a mainstream if you are niche, because it's not the same thing. And if you are niche, you have the special values, and this is what people are looking for. They're looking for individualism. They are looking for something new, something special. And don't try to be something that you are not. Just keep doing what you're doing, keep telling your story, keep on nourishing your brand values, and if it will happen, this is the reason that will make it happen. Okay, we talked about your audiences. This is highly recommended to know them, and to know them very well. Who are they? Where are they consuming your content? If you are creating content on Instagram, it doesn't necessarily mean that your audiences are on Instagram. So you really need to do like a small research. We call it a persona research, just to make sure that you are talking to your audiences wherever they are, and that you are talking to them in a language that they can understand, and that you picked up the right channels for your content. Nah. Okay, I've been here. So don't create content for yourself. We talked about it. It's a trap, believe me. and it's a very easy one to fall into, because sometimes we love what we do so much that we forget that behind it, so it should go to somewhere else, to our audiences. And we tend to forget about it sometimes. So really, you need to create content from your audience's perspective. Think about it, and think about whatever content you are producing or you are making, someone needs to see it on the other side. Will they like it? Will they get excited about it? This is what you should ask yourself, not if you are liking it. I'm not saying that you have to release content that you don't like or you don't approve. Of course, you should like it, but you always have to keep in mind that someone else is about to read it or to see it or to do something with it. So think about them, not about you. Also, it's true if you are working with affiliates or working with influencers, okay? This is very, very important. Communities. Let's talk about it. You have to really build communities around your brand. Communities are the next level in the social media. And we can see it very strongly. It already happening in Facebook, mainly, but not also. And this is an example, a beautiful example, to my opinion, of Guerlain's app. You know it, Alpha Play? Someone knows it? Tried it? It's an app that Guerlain developed, and it offers people the opportunity to share, to do like a small podcast, and to share their memories and emotions about their fragrances, that they love. Now, if you think about it, it's genius, because Guerlain, they have a lot of perfumes, of course, but they're not talking about their brand here at Alpha Play. They're only giving their audiences a chance to express their emotions about perfumes, to express their feelings about perfumes. And they are connecting perfume lovers from all around the world. Well, I think now it's only in French. It's available only in the French language. But can you imagine what will happen when it will be available in multiple languages, in English, in Chinese, in Japanese, in Hebrew? It's amazing, because this is how you build community around brands. And you really need to think about what you do and how you can collect people to around your brand and around your brand values. Because, you know, people, at the end of it, they are becoming your ambassadors, your brand ambassadors. Whether if you are a retailer, whether if you have your own brand, it doesn't matter. People follow other people. So this is really a great example, and you can think about your own way through your brand values to create your own communities. Don't work on autopilot. Quality over quantity, okay. And sometimes, you know, when we picked up the channels that we want to work with, and we started to create our content, at some point we are working on an autopilot, okay? And we must check every 2-3 months, because things are changing. Our audiences changes sometimes. And we need to make sure that they are still there. And we need to make sure that the content that we create is more quality than quantity. You know, I don't want just to produce content and produce content. I prefer it to be small quantity, but very high quality. So think about it whenever you do anything, whenever you create content for whatever channel you are using. Create the perfect encounter between online and offline. Missing an N. Okay, this is super, super important because a lot of brands are, falling right into this hole. And you have to remember, it doesn't matter if your brand is available only on the online channels, or if you do have a boutique or a store, or even if you sell your brand to distributors that are selling to retailers in their own markets. Think about it. At the end of the day, your brand has the values and the goals that you set, and you are the best person to know what are the brand values. And you need to make sure that every time that your audiences see or meet your brand, they will see and get the same experience. So if you do have a shop or a boutique, this is very important, because think about the customers that enters your boutique or enters a retailer boutique, which is not yours. What is the experience that he gets when he sees your brand? Is it the same one that he will get if he will get into your social media pages, your Instagram page? Is it the same experience that he will have if he will buy or shop online in your website? You need to make sure that this is going to happen. And one of the most exciting ways to do that offline is to create gathering and meetings with, of course, with added values, because you cannot invite people to your shop or to your boutique or to some retail, other retail, which is not yours, if you don't have added value to give them. When I opened Individual, my goal was to produce one event at least every month. And it needed to be, of course, with extra added values. Some of the events were just didn't work because, nowadays, in order to make people go out from their home, especially if it's night, okay, you need to be really, really attractive, and you really need to think about what you are doing and what you are offering to them. So think about it very carefully. This is, for example, the Nobile boutique in Monaco, and they also are making very nice events. If you know Nose in Paris, also they have beautiful events. Le Liquide in Paris, also they do it. And this is a key point for you, just to make sure that wherever your brand is, it should reflect your values, your brand values. Okay, do not work without a content strategy plan. I know sometimes it's tempting, yeah? You have your brand or your business, and you say, okay, I'm gonna just open a Facebook page, an Instagram feed, and that's it, I'm all set up. But then you find yourself thinking about, okay, now I have my channels, but what am I going to show my audiences there? And then what happens is that you think and you change your mind, and eventually the things that your audiences see is not consistent. So you really need to make a plan. You really need to think about the channels that you're about to use. And I like, when I work with my customers, to build like a Gantt for all the content and marketing channels. It makes it much easier. And I will leave my email at the end if you would like me to send you just the Gantt. Of course, you will have to fill it. Please send me an email and I will send it to you. But the strategy plan helps you to, just to be one step ahead and not stay behind. Speak in one language. Okay, you all know, I think, this brand, LYP. It's a beautiful brand, and it's been bought by a large group, you know. But what I love about this brand is that whenever you see the brand, you have the same experience, whether if it's on the online channels, whether if it's on the offline channels, you always get the same sense, always evokes the same feelings. And this is amazing because if you think about your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed or your boutique, or if you are working with distributors in different markets, you need to make sure that your brand speaking in one language, a language that people will understand even before they started reading or hearing something that you said to them, okay? It's about the look and feel of your brand. It's about the colors. This is by Cinnamon Project, if you know, on Instagram, which is a beautiful page. And I love this brand because it all works together. They're talking about their brand values, not necessarily pushing the brand into your face every time they create content for you. So what we are selling basically is the look and feel, is the values that we want to share with our audiences. Do not look unprofessional. If you don't know how to write content, hire someone to do that for you. If you don't know how to take good visual content, hire someone to do that for you, or make sure you are learning by yourself. It's okay to learn by yourself, but just to make sure that what you are uploading is good enough, okay? Don't go for less than perfect, okay? I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but make sure that it looks professional, okay? Think always, if you were the audience, would you like it? Okay, just put yourself in their position. It needs to be professional. Express yourself. This is what niche is all about, okay? Be a voice, not an echo. This is a very beautiful sentence that Albert Einstein said. And niche is all about individuality. And millennials, if we were talking about millennials, are all about individuality and individualism. And you need to really think. Again, it takes us to not going to be mainstream, but always maintain our core values and express ourselves. Let the audience know that we have something different, that we have something special, and we need to emphasize it in each and every channel that we are using. People, by the way, are not looking today for niche perfumes only because we say, hi, this is a niche perfume. No, they're looking for something new, for something special. Don't do inconsistent. We talked about it as well. Once you picked up your channels, once you produced your content, now you have to be consistent. Because if you're, for example, uploading visual content or sending your consumers or audiences email marketing or whatever it is that you do, or doing podcasts, okay? And you keep on doing it for a while, but then you stop all of a sudden. So your audiences will probably ask themselves, hey, where did they go to? What happened to them? And they will miss you if you will produce good content. So make sure that you are consistent with everything that you do. If you decide to put up I don't know, to upload like YouTube or to open YouTube channel, make sure that you're uploading a video every week, every month. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you'll be consistent, okay? And to be consistent, be really honest with yourself. since a lot of niche brands, they don't have the budgets to hire someone to do the process, all the processes for them. So you need to be really honest with yourself if you don't have a team to do it. What's working for you? But as long as you will be consistent, okay? If once a week it's fine for you, do it. Don't say, okay, I'm sending content every day, but then you find yourself not be able to do that, okay? Up. Do. Interesting collaborations. So collaboration is very, very important. And collaboration, I think, good collaborations are, we can see them also with big mainstream brands, not only in the beauty industry. But this is a fantastic way to create new content, to withdraw new audiences to your brand. But you need to make sure that it's a win-win collaboration. It's really great because it keeps you always in your audience's mind and they don't get bored, okay? Some of the niche brands I know, they had what they do in order not to get their audiences bored is to launch every year 4, 3, 5 fragrances. And then you find yourself on the shelf with 24 new fragrances. It might be fine because it's something new, but at the end of the day, it's really, really difficult to manage. So you should prefer nice collaborations, special editions, for example, of whatever. If you produce perfumes, of course, for a perfume, it can be the same fragrance, the same lead-in fragrance that you have, the bestseller that you have. But if it's for content, think about special, creative collaborations. This is one collaboration that I really liked from Martin Mikalev. She created a very nice collaboration with Alex Doll. He's a Russian artist. And she used her bestseller fragrance, but she created a whole new packaging and a whole new story for the brand. And it's interesting. So the audiences are fascinated by it. And I can tell you that at the same time that she launched it, we had a celebration in our boutique because she provided us a content to work with. So if you're working with distributors or if you are working with retailers directly, you should think about the content that you are producing to the audiences, but also to your distributors, to your retailers, because you want to give them tools in order for them to sell your brand. Eventually, everyone needs to sell. This is what we want. So good collaborations. Okay, and now we have some time, so I will tell you a little bit about the trends in content making for 2019 to 2020. Some nice trends that you can use while creating content for your whatever channel it is that you are using. So bright colors, use them. Do not be afraid. It's very trendy, it's very popular. Of course, the colors should match your brand palette, but don't be afraid. Or if you're thinking of creating something new, a new language, a new branding for your brand, don't be afraid to use bright colors. The zine culture. The zine culture is a very, very interesting one that millennials, they love it, okay? And it speaks about contemporary art. It's all about attracting niche groups and create niche content to new audiences. It's about collages, printings, and variety of of prints and elements that you can use. It's a language. So if you're going to use it, make sure that you use it consistently in all of your content. But it's a very interesting one, and I recommend you to look into it a little bit. Futuristic. So this is a trend. We are in the midst of the digital age, and future is something that is very interesting, always. We all want to know what will happen next. And we are living in the best age for it. So you can use in your content some futuristic elements. You just need to, again, make sure that it's consistent and that it matches all the other key values that you are providing to your audiences. Consciousness, consumerism. Okay, everybody likes green. Everybody likes to recycle. This is always a fashionable thing. And we see more and more beauty brands, indie brands, niche brands that are making it possible now using recycling materials like bamboo, for example. But you can think about it as a trend. I see don't see the photo well. You can think about it while creating your brand, while creating the language for your brand. You can talk about it, you can use it. If your brand uses these values, you can emphasize this in all the content that you are using. Clashing worlds and patterns. Okay, this is like the more the merrier, okay? This is a very nice trend. Not for everyone, I must say. I just found the Balenciaga bottle of Rosa Botanica, which uses this, they used this trend even before its time. So it's all about what's mixing 80s, 90s, printings, and whatever you can use just to, at the first look, it doesn't seem like it can collaborate together, but at the end, it contains a beautiful, and it creates a beautiful language and a new language. So this is all about different prints, different textures, different. Be bold. Do not be afraid to be bold with your content, okay? Courage is something that never goes out of style, never. So produce your content and think about how different can you be, but just you need to be careful not to be too sophisticated, because sometimes your audiences wouldn't necessarily understand. But make sure that if you are bold, so make sure that you are bold all the way through. Don't be afraid. So, just a little recap, okay? We talked about content creation. We talked about how marketing is basically content creation for your brand, whether if you're a retailer, whether if you're a brand owner, whether if you're a blogger or influencer, whatever. So start with defining your goal. Know your audiences, very important one. Choose the right channels. We saw multi-variety of channels that you can use them. Content strategy plan, do not work without it. Plan before you do. Make sure you have a perfect correlation between the online and the offline channels as much as you can do it. And if you're using influencers or affiliates, just make sure they know it as well. Create your own content. It's fun. This is the most important thing, is to have fun. With everything that you do, you need to have fun, because otherwise it won't be, why we have gone all this way. So, first I want to thank you very much. I hope I was clear. to everyone. We can now do the Q&A session if you have some questions, and I will be very happy to answer. And if you want to receive my my Gantt, my social media and content marketing Gantt, you can just email me, and next week you will get it in your email. So any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question actually as a social media manager for an e-commerce dealing with niche perfumes. Basically, my shop deals with different niche brands, so with different stories. So I was wondering, how can I tell my personal story if I am to tell a lot of different stories?
Okay, it's a perfect question, because this was exactly the challenge that I faced when I opened Individual. Individual was a brand. This is the brand that we created. And as you said, we had to choose from 20, 25 brands that each and every one of them has his own story. But eventually, the brand is your shop. This is the brand. This is the brand that you should promote. And you should promote it as just, you know, as a house for all the niche brands. And you have to think about the values, the core values that your brand as a shop brings to the audiences, brings to your customers. I mean, think about what would you like your customers to feel whenever they're entering your shop. This is the key. And the answers will be the brand values, okay? And whenever you make content, whether if it's Instagram, for example, for the boutique, you can show the variety of the brands. You can sometimes tell about Nobile, sometimes tell about Micallef or Liquide or whatever, Amouage. You can tell their story, but you are always behind it. What the audiences will feel, it's your brand, okay? So just for example, I never uploaded a visual content that I received from my brands, from the people that I used to work with. We used to create our own content, and it spoke in the language that we created. So you have to think about that. Yes?
What would you recommend to be the most successful media channel mix if you are wanting to build brand awareness and also drive...
So you have to repeat.
Oh, yes. What would you recommend as the most successful media channel mix if you're trying to build brand awareness and drive people to your website ultimately to purchase from that?
Okay, well, it really, really depends on who your audiences are, okay? Because, for example, Instagram is an amazing tool, okay? But you need to realize that I mean, if we will think about the person behind Instagram who is using it, so it's more young audiences. But I think that Instagram, I would highly recommend, especially if you want to attract them to your website. But also, email marketing is an amazing way to withdraw people into your website. Think about collaborations as well, which is very, very important. If you, I don't know if you have a website of a niche brand or skincare brand or whatever. So you can see, for example, a lot of indie brands such as Glossier, such as Milk. They do an amazing job on Instagram, and they really maintain it, but you can see that they are working around their core values always, and they do use email marketing, for example, influencers. It's a beautiful, beautiful way. Affiliates are the best way also to attract people to your website, bloggers, whatever. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you, I believe in educating the consumer.
Yes.
And all of us here, I'm sure we all do it in a way or in another. But the challenge we're facing, I work in Dubai and for a niche boutique, and I've been in the niche industry since 2004.
Okay.
The jargon that we use is not always understood. Like if I come and they say, this is a floral, woody, I don't know what, ambery notes. So how did you face this challenge and how
Okay.
did you break it? This will be
Okay.
interesting to know.
It's a very good point, and I must say that educating consumers is something I faced also in the Israeli market, because when we opened it and when I established the niche category, there wasn't niche in Israel. So we found ourselves teaching people what is floral, what is woody, whatever you say. Eventually, the key point is to do what you know to do best in your shops, but to make sure that you educate in your audiences also in other channels. For example, if you are using an Instagram feed for your brand, for your shop, you can teach them about certain ingredients with, for example, just upload a nice photo of a flower, of a certain flower, just an example, and explain about this flower and its origins and how it smells, and just tell a story. I'm sure you all know the book of Ziskind, Le Parfumeur, right? And it opens with a certain line that makes you really smell, okay, the scene that is describing there. So think about that. Think about what you do outside of your boutique in order to educate other people on fragrances, on smell, on scents, on ingredients. If you have an email marketing, for example, you can send it to them. And another very nice thing is to make in-store events for your customers and to invite them for an appointment with a famous perfumer, for example, to explain about the process. And then you can do the same thing with bloggers and influencers, and they will spread the word for you. The thing is to be consistent about it. So it takes time, but eventually it will happen. Any other? Yeah. Sorry.
I have a question. If you create good content, that's a good thing. But isn't there a danger that the dependency on the platforms like Instagram or Facebook, which are owned by other people, that if you put all your money on that horse, that you become dependent and that you get in trouble?
Agree. That's why I recommend, and I said it before, that I recommend to use at least 2 channels, and most highly recommended is to pick 4 channels. Whatever you do, I really believe also in organic work, okay? Not necessarily to put all your money there. Of course, you have to split it. Don't put all the eggs on one basket. That's true. And also, if you mentioned it, so if you are building a community, for example, in Facebook, make sure that you have other channels, because community in Facebook, for example, is something that is flourishing now. And they most probably, in a year from now, they will start to collect money. So now it's a beautiful way to create brand awareness as well. But it's true, you need to think about other channels. This is the reason why you should work in several channels. Thank you. Any other questions? No? So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Would be happy to hear from you. Bye-bye.